How's this offseason been for you?
It's been good, man. It's been good. Busy, very, very busy, but I'm excited about where we're headed. I think we got a good group of dudes, man, and they've been working hard. They've been working really hard. Coach Tank has done a phenomenal job in the weight room, and their bodies look completely different, and we're ready for camp in the season, you know.
And I'm guessing you've always kind of had a holistic view of defenses, but have you had to zoom out more, like with the new role at all? Like, what's that been like for you professionally? Like,
It's yeah, it's been awesome. I think throughout my career, I think being a back end guy, I've always paid attention to what was going on up front, and it wasn't until I was with Dave Dorn at NC State to where coaching the nickels, we were part of the run game a lot. It was kind of like an outside backer a little bit, but coaching those guys up and then being part of the secondary, it kind of like allowed my game to blossom, in terms of growth and development. But taking a holistic approach now and just trying to make sure we're all on one accord, as a defense, because at the end of the day, right, like everybody's going to point to me when something goes bad. And so just trying to put guys in the right position. I think today's game in terms of college football is about matchups. And I think we got a lot of really special, talented guys up front. And how can I allow them to take advantage of their skill set and put them in good positions? And so I'm just constantly with our staff just trying to get together with good ideas and put guys in position just to have success, whether that's rushing the passer, whether that's dropping into coverage. At the end of the day, the goal is try to take the ball away and eliminate points from being scored. So.
Kind of in that same sense, you got a lot of good defensive minds in that room with you now, with Jim, with Brett, former defensive coordinator. How do you balance taking influence from them, picking their brains, versus having your own voice show through the defense this year?
So I've always been about, like, the room, and everybody's going to have a bunch of brilliant ideas, but does it fit into the grand scheme of what we're doing? And just trying to manage that, man. Like, we have some awesome dudes in the room, no ego guys, and so it's made my job really, really easy. I've been a part of staffs to where, everybody wants to do what they want to do, and if you don't comply, it's like World War III, And so I think with the group of guys that we have, they're all bright, they're all intelligent, they all understand the ins and outs of our defense. So if they come to me with a suggestion or something, it's because they legitimately believe that it could work and it can help us, without flooding the guys with a ton of information. So that's something that I'm always taking in consideration, man. At the end of the day, right, my goal, right, our goal is just to play good defense no matter how that happens, right? It may look a little different than last year, right? But for the most part, guys, the goal is for guys to fly around and just play fast. So how can I eliminate that extra level of thinking for them? But it's been awesome, man. We got a tremendous room of dudes.
Aaron, you pushed like 20 scholarship guys in the defensive backfield. Like, how would you describe that competition?
It's awesome, dude. It's absolutely awesome. I think last night was just a small indicator of it. Some guys flashed a little bit, and I think anytime you have competition in a room, it just raises the level of everybody's play, right? Like like if you're a good player, you got to be great now, right? Or you gonna fall by the wayside. And so I was up front with our whole defense in our first unit meeting yesterday, just about, this is how the depth chart is starting, right? You dictate whether it end like this at the end of fall camp, I'm sorry. And so just being transparent with these guys, all of them want to play in the NFL, And so when they get to that level, it's a straight business, Obviously, we want to make sure we have great relationships with them. Obviously, you're mindful of the transfer portal, right? But there's a way that you handle them, knowing that you got relationships with them, right? I think that's got to be cultivated ahead of time. But just allow them to understand. Listen, we are tracking every practice. We are tracking your production. We are tracking your mental errors, right? We are tracking, are you making plays on the football? We're tracking all of that. All right, and when this thing is over and done with, when we get to the season, who is going to put us in the best position to have success on the field, right? And you know what? It may start that way, and we may get to week 5, and it may be somebody else in there, right? I.e. Kirby Joseph, And so when you can use those examples for guys, I think it allows them to go out there and just play fast and play free. And if they aren't the initial starter, they know that their number can be called at any time.
Coach, a lot of changes, not just with the staff, but with the roster. Is the scheme and the culture to a place where you feel like you still have some continuity, or do you feel like you're starting over?
No, man. I don't feel like we're starting over at all, man. I think we got a really solid core group of older guys, that understands what we're trying to get done from a schematic standpoint. And it was really, really cool because in the off season during the summer, our players, crazy man, our players they would just come up and watch film. You know, like obviously a lot of times we weren't here in the building, but they would just come up and watch film. And like when you got, and it was a core group of guys kind of leading it. And when you got that kind of leadership, you know, when I got Matt Bailey can stand up in the front of the room and draw up a scheme for Clayton and Demetrius Hill, right, and Prince Ford, who just got here, like that's like you can't put a price tag on that. You know what I'm saying? Like that's absolutely incredible, right? When I haven't even spoken to these guys about a schematic plan, and Matt Bailey is talking to them about the defense, you know. So I just think where we're at from a developmental standpoint and a skill set standpoint, I think we got some really good guys up front that understand what we're trying to get done. And just because we had guys drafted, the standard and the expectation will not change, you know. And I think the guys who are here are letting the guys who haven't been here know that.
And since you mentioned the three newest DBs, just what went into maybe pursuing them in the summer, and kind of did they give you something you thought you needed?
Yeah, well, I think anytime you lose, right, we lost Kendall Smith, we lost Devin Witherspoon, we lost Quan Martin, we lost Sidney Brown, we lost 4 starters for us in the secondary, right? And we were bringing in some freshmen from obviously from high school that we recruited, but right, we wanted to try to, how can we replenish our roster with a couple of older guys? We just wanted a couple of older guys or some guys with some actual game time experience, right, who can come in here and we felt like who can help us. And so we just evaluated the guys that were out there, and Demetrius Hill popped up, right, Clayton Bush popped up, and Prince Ford popped up, you know. So I think once we saw those guys and we saw their skill set, we knew that they could help us, you know, just from an athletic standpoint. And when you had a chance to meet them and brought them up here for an official visit, you knew that they were the right kind of guys, and they were the kind of guys who could fit into our program and our system.
It's early, you only have one practice with them, but what do they bring physically?
Prince Ford is really athletic. He's pretty cerebral, kind of slight, you know, but so was Devin, right? But he flashed a couple times last night in terms of he got some really quick feet, right? Obviously we didn't have on any pads or nothing, so that's another. I'll be able to give you a full synopsis once we put on pads, but he did some good things out there, you know. Demetrius Hill, I think Demetrius Hill has all the ability in the world. Big, pretty guy. He understands from a schematic standpoint what we're trying to do defensively, and he knows kind of like he knows where his help is, and he's very, very, very intelligent, you know. And they gave him some formations last night that he hadn't seen, and he adjusted to them on the fly, and it was so awesome and so encouraging, right, as his coach. And so I was very, very pleased by that. And Clayton, I think Clayton has a ton of ability. You know, he did some really, really good things. I got him in the middle of the field right now. He did some really good things in the middle of the field, you know, tracking the football. Obviously, you know, day one we have on no pads, you know, so we're trying to make sure guys are just taking the proper angles, staying off the ground, staying off their teammates. And so just some first day, you know, trying to knock the kinks off, and I have a better understanding after the first scrimmage, you know.
Gotcha. Can you just comment on the depth at the outside linebacker position, and do you feel like that's a group that can get to the quarterback consistently?
Yeah, it's funny because you know, we had a chance to go to the New York Giants in the off season, me and a couple of coaches with Coach B, and I walked in their outside linebacker room and came back to ours. I'm like, ooh, these guys look just as good as they did in NFL. You know what I mean? But we got some very talented dudes, right? We got some guys who obviously have been here. We got some dudes who put some things on tape in terms of their ability. I think we are really deep at that position. Obviously, Coach Bullen has done a tremendous job, but the goal is just to continue to allow those guys to eat and get better. You know, like when they're on the field, putting them in positions where they can have success. You know, they're all wired a tad bit different. You know, I think Gabe sleeps up here, right? When we're not in fall camp, you know, Seth is probably one of the more. I'm not so sure Seth can't play DB. You know, just with how athletic he is, right? AB's a freaking grinder, man. Like he wants to put his face and stuff and get to the point of attack. And you know, Lane has been flashing. I mean, we got a really special Jared Beatty. I mean, we got some really athletic guys, and how do we get all of them on the field? You know, it's going to be a mix of us trying to make sure we're matching up with proper personnel, and you know, different games, because we're going to be playing some guys who can run around a little bit, may require some different schematic tools. But They are a very deep room. It's a great room, and I think we got the right guy in there in Coach Bullen and coming from the league, and he's kind of used to that. So it's been awesome.
Aaron, you said at the beginning of spring that you were going to use that time to figure out what this defense was going to be schematically, and you didn't know yet. Did you get a lot of that answered in the spring, or are a lot of those things still up for grabs
Well,
right now as you get in fall camp?
well, I think part of it is, right, I think you saw an idea of it in the spring, but then you bring in, right, we have I think over 45 guys on our roster. This is their first fall camp.
Right.
You know, and so you're still finding some things out because we just have some new faces and new guys on our roster, you know, and so I think it's as we kind of progress through fall camp, I'll probably have a better understanding of it, you know what I mean? Obviously, we're going to do what we do from a defensive standpoint, but it's going to be some minor tweaks in here and there just because of, you know, with our personnel. You know, when you have 3 DBs that can get drafted or that got drafted in the secondary, you can do what you want. You know what I mean? And so, are those same guys back there? Can they make up for what those guys did from whether it's 1 or 2 guys, whether it's an influx of guys, 4 or 5 guys, you know? And so maybe not as productive, but can hold their own when they're on that island in the secondary. And so obviously got our guys returning up front, which I'm really, really excited about. But it's just a matter of who can help us. Are we a man team? Are we a zone team? You know, and just kind of finding out, you know, early on, like, what are those guys' skill set. So.
A few years ago, Kendall went from like that dime DB to that free safety. Seems like maybe Matt could follow. He has versatility. Is there a correlation there? Is that more coincidental? Like, is that like I don't want to say a graduate system, but can you go from there to there?
Yeah, you can. I think it also, right, both those guys had tremendous ball skills as well. You know, obviously Kendall was long. He was physical, right? We felt good with him. You know, sometimes in our dime package, the dime covers the tight end. We felt really good on him on tight ends. And same thing about Matt Bailey, you know, like he's long, he's athletic. We feel really good about him on tight ends, but we also feel really good about him being in the post because they have tremendous ball skills, you know what I'm saying? And so anytime you can combine length, right, we're going to play in, obviously, this conference to where we play a lot of really good tight ends, right, some long athletic guys, and so you want to be able to get hands on them, and sometimes having a 5'8" guy, right, cover them don't really match up well, so we just try to match guys up, put them in a proper position to be successful and personnel it. So that's pretty much what it boils down to.
The league is really